The Slumber Party Massacre, 1982. Released in 1982, The Slumber Party Massacre is a cult classic of American slasher cinema, a film that captures both the innocence and the danger often portrayed in early 1980s horror. The story follows a group of teenage girls who gather for what is supposed to be a simple night of fun. A slumber party, laughter, music, whispered secrets, and the freedom of being young without supervision. But outside their safe world, something is wrong. An escaped killer is on the loose. A man with a violent past and an obsession that turns him into a relentless predator. Armed with a power drill, he begins to stalk the quiet suburban neighborhood where the girls are spending the night. At first, the tension builds slowly. There is no immediate chaos. No loud explosions of terror. Instead, the film plays with anticipation. Shadows linger in hallways. Doors creak open. Windows reflect shapes that may or may not be real. The slumber party becomes a fragile bubble of teenage life surrounded by an invisible threat. As the night progresses, what began as playful conversation slowly transforms into fear. The killer invades the house, turning a familiar and safe space into a trap. One by one, the characters are forced to confront a reality they never imagined. The horror is not only physical but psychological. The film explores vulnerability, the feeling of being watched, and the sudden loss of innocence. Unlike many slasher films of its time, The Slumber Party Massacre carries a subtle layer of commentary. Beneath the surface violence, it reflects on themes of gender, power, and survival. The killer's weapon, exaggerated and symbolic, becomes part of the film's dark irony. Yet at its core, this is a suspense-driven story. The girls are not simply victims. As events spiral out of control, survival instincts take over. Fear turns into resistance. Panic turns into determination. The tension escalates through narrow corridors, dimly lit rooms, and desperate attempts to escape. Every sound becomes amplified. Every movement feels critical. What makes the film memorable is its simplicity. A house. A small group of characters. One unstoppable threat. The confined setting intensifies the suspense and forces the audience to experience the terror alongside the characters. The early 1980s were a defining era for slasher films, and The Slumber Party Massacre stands among those titles that shaped the genre's identity. It combines suspense, shock, and stylized horror with moments that almost feel satirical in hindsight. But beyond the genre elements, there is something timeless about the fear of isolation. A house that should feel secure becomes dangerous. A celebration becomes a nightmare. As the story reaches its climax, confrontation becomes inevitable. There is no more hiding. No more waiting. Only the final struggle between predator and survivor. The ending leaves behind a mixture of relief and unease. Even after the violence stops, the psychological scars remain. The night is over, but the experience cannot be undone. Decades later, The Slumber Party Massacre remains a recognizable piece of horror history. It represents a period when slasher films were raw, direct, and unapologetically tense. For modern audiences, it is both a time capsule and a reminder of how effective simple storytelling can be. A single location, a confined group, a looming threat. Sometimes horror does not need complexity. Sometimes all it needs is a quiet night, a closed door, and the feeling that something is waiting just outside. The Slumber Party Massacre, 1982, continues to echo through the slasher genre as a cult favorite, a film where innocence meets terror, and survival becomes the only goal. And as with many stories from that era, the lesson is clear. What begins as an ordinary night can quickly turn into something unforgettable.